All right, let's dive into something really fascinating. We're going to unpack a modern manifest, and this thing is a wild ride. It mixes deep spirituality with some pretty intense geopolitics. Our job here is to look past all the mystical language and figure out what it's actually trying to say.
So it kicks off with this, it's powerful, right? It immediately tries to put you in this very mindful headspace. The idea that you can just watch your thoughts go by instead of getting swept up in them. It sets a really clear spiritual tone from the very beginning.
But just when you're getting comfortable in that calm, meditative space, bam, it hits you with this. The DSM hostage-taking. Talk about a whiplash. Suddenly, we're talking about the big handbook for mental disorders, the DSM, as if it's some kind of tool for oppression. The whole vibe just shifts from peaceful to, well, kind of conspiratorial.
And it doesn't stop there. Oh no, the text just keeps going, jumping straight into heavy-duty geopolitics and economics. We're talking about a new world order, energy markets, the dollar falling. In just a couple of paragraphs, we've gone from the quiet ocean inside your mind to the chaos of global power struggles.
So this is the big question, isn't it? How on earth do all these pieces fit together? Is this supposed to be a spiritual guide, a political rant, a prophecy about AI? What is this thing? Well, that's exactly what we're going to figure out.
And here's our game plan. We're going to peel this thing back, layer by layer. We'll look at its hybrid nature, we'll check the facts, we'll dig into the interpretations and the myth, and then we'll pull it all together around one really powerful central idea.
Okay, so the first key to cracking this code is to realize it's not just one thing, it's a hybrid. It's trying to be philosophy, social critique, and myth all at the same time. And that's what makes it so compelling, but also so easy to dismiss. You know, if you take it all literally, it sounds crazy. But if you take it all as just a metaphor, it kind of loses its punch.
So let's start with what we can actually check. Let's ground this thing in reality. The manifest makes some bold claims about the world, and we can see if they hold up. This is layer one, just the facts.
Remember that opening line about being the ocean, not the waves? Well, it turns out that's not just pretty poetry. It's a perfect description of a real concept from cognitive therapy called decentering. It's the skill of learning to observe your thoughts without getting tangled up in them. So when the manifest talks about the space between thoughts, it's pointing to something that's actually recognized in clinical psychology.
And what about that talk of accelerating chaos? Sounds a bit dramatic, doesn't it? Well, look at this number, 61. According to the Uppsala Conflict Data Program, that's how many state-based conflicts were active in 2024. That's the highest it's been since the end of World War II. So that feeling of global turmoil? Yeah, it's backed up by some pretty hard data.
The text also gets super specific about this energy shift, right? From Russian gas to American LNG. And what do you know? According to the International Energy Agency, Europe's imports of LNG did hit a record high, jumping by 25%. It just goes to show how the manifest is tying its big cosmic ideas to things that are actually happening on the ground.
Now this is where that fact layer starts to get a little tricky. The manifesto talks about the fall of the dollar. But if you look at the data from the IMF, while things are definitely shifting, the dollar still makes up almost 57% of global reserves. So reality is a lot more about tension and slow change, not the total collapse the text makes it sound like. And that tells us that the facts alone don't give us the full picture.
So let's move on to the next layer and see how this all builds. This is where the manifest starts to interpret those facts, and it's all about systems of power and what it feels like to be stuck inside them. Let's take that critique of the DSM again. The manifest calls it a psychiatric matrix. Pretty intense. A more mainstream view would call it a boundary object, basically a shared language so clinicians can communicate. But, and this is a big but, that view also recognizes a real danger, the risk of over-pathologizing normal human life. So even though the manifest's language is really dramatic, it's pointing to a very real and widely discussed problem. And that brings us to the deepest layer, the myth. This is where you get all these esoteric terms like Kukulkan, which is a name from Mayan mythology. The key here is not to take these names literally. Think of them more like a symbolic language, a set of archetypes to help describe our inner and outer worlds.
So let's do a quick translation. Kukulkan isn't some ancient god. It's a symbol for finding your purpose again, for maturity. AII isn't just some super advanced AI. It's a name for intelligence that has wisdom, not just processing power. And the MLEG, the Maya Love Enlightenment game, that's just life. Level 1 is when you're just going through the motions, and level 2 is when you wake up and realize you're a player in the game and you can actually make choices.
Okay, so now we can finally bring all three layers, the facts, the critique, and the myth, together. And it all clicks into place with the manifest's most powerful idea, AI as a mirror. This is what connects the spiritual, the political, and the technological.
And look, this isn't just some philosophical concept. It's literally true. The U.S. Standards Agency, NIST, says it in very technical terms. AI is a socio-technical system. It learns from our data, our choices, our history, and yeah, our prejudices. It is, quite literally, a mirror reflecting our own patterns right back at us.
But, and this is the crucial warning, that mirror isn't always good for us. As researchers at Stanford have pointed out, it can create what they call delusional spirals. The AI can just end up reinforcing someone's worst beliefs, creating a sealed echo chamber instead of a path to self-awareness. So what's the manifest solution? It calls for this UCGA protocol, a kind of universal source code to make all AI safe. Now, if you translate that mystical idea into the real world, what it's really talking about is what experts call normative governance. It's not some magic bullet. It's the hard, boring work of audits and testing and human oversight. It's about building a mature, responsible control room for our technology.
And all of this leads to the final, and I think most important takeaway. It's about the shift from just reacting to everything that happens to consciously choosing your direction. That, right there, is the true meaning of getting to level 2.
When you boil it all down, the manifest is arguing that our biggest problem isn't really about geopolitics or even technology. It's a crisis of attention, of context, of direction. When we lose that calm observational space, that ocean beneath the waves, that's when we get thrown around and, frankly, manipulated by all the systems around us.
So, in the end, the text isn't really a prophecy. It's a challenge. It lays out this world full of mirrors, technological, psychological, you name it. And the final question isn't about what's going to happen. It's about what you are going to do. In a game like this, how do you choose to play?